Uh, Good afternoon to you all. I'll say a few words in English and then I'll shift to Arabic. I just want to say that today was a very good day on which foreign ministers and representatives of 40 countries and organizations sent a resounding message of support to UNRWA, emphasizing that the role the agency plays is indispensable and a commitment for support for the agency and for the great job it does in providing vital services to millions of Palestinian refugees. So I want to thank all our friends and partners who made that commitment today. But allow me first to say thank you so much to my dear friend, Foreign Minister of the Kingdom of Sweden and Linde. And I have to say your personal commitment, your dedication, your partnership played a tremendous role in this journey that we've embarked on together years ago to ensure that UNRWA continues to get the support it deserves, and therefore refugees have a shot at receiving the dignified lives that they are entitled to. So thank you so much for everything you've done. You've gone above and beyond, and your passion took our effort further than your political commitment as well. So big thank you. And of course, thanks go to you as well, Felipe, for the tremendous responsibility that you so adequately shouldering in difficult times. But again, it's the nobility of the mission that I'm sure drives you and drives all of us in this effort. And if you allow me just a few words in Arabic before I hand over to the Foreign Minister. اليوم كان يوما أكد فيه المجتمع الدولي دعمه للأنروا وللدور الأساسي الذي تقوم به في تقديم خدماتها الحيوية لأكثر من 5 ملايين لاجئ فلسطيني. وزراء خارجية وممثلو حوالي 40 دولة التقوا اليوم ليقولوا إنهم يثمنون دور الوكالة، يدركون أهميته، وأنهم يدعمون استمرار هذا الدور لتمضي الوكالة في تقديم خدماتها وفق تكليفها الأممي إلى حين التوصل لحل عادل لقضية اللاجئين في إطار حل سياسي شامل للقضية الفلسطينية على أساس حل الدولتين ووفق القانون الدولي والمرجعيات المعتمدة. اجتماع اليوم لم يكن اجتماعا لحشد التبرعات، كان اجتماعا للتوافق على استراتيجية لدعم الوكالة. كل الدول التي تحدثت أكدت أهمية الدور الذي تقوم به الأنروا والالتزام بدعم الوكالة. التصويت على تمديد ولاية الأنروا سيكون هذا العام، ونثق بأن المجتمع الدولي سيعطي الوكالة الأصوات التي تعكس أهميتها وتعكس إدراكهم للدور الحيوي الذي تقوم به. دعم الأنروا يعني دعم الأمن، دعم الأنروا يعني دعم الاستقرار، يعني إيجاد مدارس ليذهب إليها أطفال اللاجئين الفلسطينيين، إيجاد عيادات لتقديم الخدمات الصحية لهم، مساعدة المحتاجين. الاستثمار في الأنروا هو استثمار في المستقبل، استثمار في الاستقرار، والأنروا هي مصدر أمل للاجئين الفلسطينيين. نريد أن نعمل مع شركائنا وأشقائنا في المجتمع الدولي وفي المنطقة على إبقاء هذا الأمل حيا في وقت تضيق فيه مساحة الأمل جراء غياب الأفق السياسي لحل القضية الفلسطينية على أساس حل الدولتين كما قلت. أود مرة أخرى أن أشكر وزيرة خارجية السويد على الدور الأساسي والرئيسي الذي قامت به خلال شراكاتنا على مدى سنوات لحشد الدعم للأنروا. التزامها وحرصها وتفانيها في القيام بهذا أمر نثمنه عاليا، وأمر انعكس على قدرة الوكالة على تقديم خدماتها. وكل الشكر أيضا للمفوض العام على هذه المسؤولية التي يتحملها باقتدار، وعلى الجهود التي يقوم بها من أجل إبقاء الأنروا قادرة على القيام بمهامها. ومرة أخرى الشكر لكل شركائنا وأصدقائنا على الدعم الذي يقدمونه للوكالة، وشكرا لكم على حضوركم. واسمحوا لي أن أعطي الميكروفون الآن لأن تفضلي.
Thank you very much, Ayman, and thank you for the nice word, but the truth is you who really are driving this to push us all to do our best to support UNRWA, and also it's you who always try to see of the situation of the Palestinian refugees. There are so many in your country, but you always have their best in front of you. We have held together a series of similar meetings the past year, including during the UNGA week, both now and before. And today's meeting reaffirmed solidarity with Palestinian refugees and a strong support for UNRWA. UNRWA delivers protection, it's a life-saving assistance to Palestinian refugees, but it also plays a crucial role for regional stability. The meeting reaffirmed that until an agreement on the question of refugees has been found in the context of a negotiated two-state solution, the international community has a responsibility to ensure the functioning of UNRWA. The meeting also highlighted the increasingly urgent need for a reformed financial model to secure a predictable and sustainable funding for UNRWA. The vicious circle of repeated financial crisis cannot continue. UNRWA's mandate expires later this year and is due to be renewed by the General Assembly. No one at the meeting expressed a wish to see a reduction of the scope of the mandate. Last month, the Swedish government advanced another $10 million to UNRWA, and our funding amounted to over $60 million this year. No one can live above their means in year after year after year. UNRWA must have a budget in balance, otherwise the agency will collapse. That would risk leading to a lack of hope for young Palestinians, growing instability and the rise of the radicalization in host countries in the wider Middle East. So the meeting today expressed a deep concern for such scenario and a deep will to find an economical solution to the situation. Thank you.
Thank you very much. It's my time now to thank the co-host, because I have to say that your leadership and your energy does not pass unnoticed among the Palestinian refugee communities. They all know the role Sweden and Jordan have played to mobilize the international community, and they also know about your personal role in spearheading this international mobilization. So thank you very much. I also want to say that today's event was attended by the Secretary General, and it was the only event together with the AHLC which has been hosted, the only event in the margin of the General Assembly which was hosted in the premises of the headquarters, and this is also an indication on how the SG has prioritized this event. And this afternoon he made a personal, passionate, compassionate plea to the international community not to forget the plight of the Palestinian refugees, especially at a time where there is absolutely no political horizon. I think today's meeting was also the occasion to bring all our partners, donors, member states together to acknowledge that the financial difficulties the agency is confronted with, if they are not addressed, will cause much more harm in the region, much more human tragedy in the region than anything else. And hence this sense that a political will is required to address once for all the structural problem the agency is confronted. You heard me many times talking about this contradicting pressure the agency is under. On one hand, we are asked to provide public services to be the lifeline of one of the most underprivileged communities in the region, the Palestinian refugees, to provide hope through education, to provide primary health, to provide social services. But on the other hand, we completely depend on voluntary contribution, which have not increased now for 1 decade, despite multiple crises. And the third one are the expectation of the community saying, we do not want to see UNRWA being weakened or decreasing its services, because if that would be the case, it would be a weakening of our future rights. So today, and I'm really encouraged, in fact, by what I heard, there is a new momentum which prevails, where the commitment of the member state was, yes, indeed, we cannot let this organization to continue to run after the cash. It's far too unsettling for the communities, for the host countries, and for the international community. We have together to find ways to ensure predictable and sustainable funding to the organization, in line with what the organization is expected to deliver. And for that, many mentioned the 2017 report of the Secretary General. There were a lot of innovative ideas, and we will be following up now again on what has been brought at that time on the table. Thank you.
نحن مضغوطون بالوقت لأن هنالك اجتماع أيضا حول القضية الفلسطينية مضطرون أن نذهب له، لكن أود فقط أن أضم صوتي إلى صوت المفوض العام في التأكيد على أهمية حضور أمين عام الأمم المتحدة اجتماعنا اليوم. كلنا نعرف الضغوطات على وقته في هذه الفترة بالتحديد، لكن ليس فقط وجوده معنا ولكن أيضا الرسالة التي أرسلها لناحية تأكيد أهمية الأنروا وتأكيد أهمية دعم اللاجئين تركت أثرا كبيرا على الجميع. أعتقد أمامنا وقت لسؤالين، تفضلي ومن ثم مضطرون أن نذهب.
Thank you very much. My name is Ibtisam Azim from Al-Arabi Al-Jadid newspaper. I have first two questions. First for the High Commissioner for UNRWA. You talked about momentum. So my question is, could you a little bit elaborate regarding these suggestions, and what other challenges does UNRWA face beside the financial challenges? And my question for both of you is about probably you saw the news that the UK is planning or to move their embassy to Jerusalem. So do you have any comments? And on the European, the Minister Lind, you have a very good context to Israel, and but what we are seeing that Israel, building of settlements and all different violations of human rights, we don't see from many Western countries and European countries any pressure put on Israel to abide by the international law, the two-state solution. We talk. So could you tell us what are you specifically doing on this regard? Thank you.
Shall we take two questions then answer all?
No.
One at a time, but sorry, but we have to really be quick, and please one question at a time as well. Lazarine.
Yeah, so very briefly, because we can continue this conversation after that, but we are looking at a better financial burden sharing among the member states. We are looking at to which extent we can bring the I5 on new innovative financing tool into the funding of services for refugees, but we are also looking at possibility to increase some contribution from the regular budget, because UNRWA traditionally is completely funded through voluntary contribution, which is also showing its limit right now.
Thank you on the question directed to me. I think it's very, very important to have good relation both with Palestine and Israel, and unfortunately we had strained relation. I was the first foreign minister in 10 years to visit Israel for meetings with the foreign minister. and we are looking for a negotiated two-state solution with agreed borders and with no settlement activities, of course, following the international law, and stop of the, of course, ending the occupation, but also taking into full account the security concern of Israel. So that is how we see the situation.
لم تعلن بريطانيا رسميا وما ذكرت هو تقارير صحفية، لذلك سنتعامل مع أي شيء يطرأ إذا كان هنالك إعلان رسمي، لكن ما أود أن أؤكد عليه أن القدس الشرقية هي جزء من الأراضي الفلسطينية المحتلة عام 1967، والقدس الشرقية يجب أن تكون عاصمة الدولة الفلسطينية التي يجب أن تستقل بحرة وذات سيادة حتى يتحقق السلام الذي نريده جميعا. كنا أدنا قرار الإدارة الأمريكية السابقة نقل السفارة إلى القدس، وبالتالي ندين أي خطوة باتجاه نقل أي سفارة إلى القدس، ونحذر منها أيضا خطوة سلبية تكرس الاحتلال وتغلق الآفاق أمام حل الدولتين. لكن لم نسمع بأي قرار رسمي من المملكة المتحدة لهذا الإطار. ما أقوله هو موقف مبدئي ثابت، ونتعامل مع كل شيء عندما يطرأ. وأؤكد مرة أخرى كما قاله الزملاء فيما يتعلق بعدم وجود أي نية لأي تغيير في ولاية الأنروا، هذا أمر ثابت. الأنروا يجب أن تستمر في تقديم خدماتها وفق تكليفها الأممي، ومرة أخرى حتى يتحقق السلام الذي يشكل حل الدولتين الذي يجسد الدولة الفلسطينية المستقلة ذات السيادة على خطوط الرابع من حزيران وعاصمة القدس المحتلة كما قلت، لتعيش بأمن وسلام إلى جانب إسرائيل. إحنا عندنا وقت فقط لسؤالين، فأرجوك تفضل.
Thank you. Abdul Hamid Sayam from the Arabic Daily Al-Quds Al-Arabi. I have very brief two questions. One for the Commissioner General. UNRWA has been subject to smearing campaign. It's always been attacked. They call it, they speak about corruption, about curriculum, about wasting money. So how do you respond to that? And my question to Your Excellency about the two-state solution. أنت تزور الأراضي المحتلة وتعرف أن قضية إقامة حل الدولتين أصبح يعني أمرا مفروغا منه، يعني لم يعد هناك أي فرصة بعد الأنشطة الاستيطانية لحل الدولتين. لماذا نبقى نكرر هذا الكلام، حل الدولتين حل الدولتين، وهي قد تبخر منذ وقت بعيد؟ شكرا.
Please go ahead.
Okay. Briefly on the smearing campaign, we don't hear anything anymore when it comes to the management crisis of the organization, and the remaining smearing campaign, and you heard me also many times, the attack that some organizations have when it comes to the curriculum being taught in our school. As you know, the curriculum we are teaching is a curriculum of the host country, and I keep saying we are very proud of what we are teaching in our school. We are preparing the generation of tomorrow, and whenever there is a smear campaign, we just respond back. I always say in our school, in the context where we operate, there is no zero risk, but we have a zero tolerance for whatever is not in line with UNESCO or United Nations value, and we are dealing each time with our attention is brought to a possible breach.
سيدي، ما نريده هو السلام العادل والشامل، ولن يتحقق السلام العادل والشامل إلا إذا حصل الشعب الفلسطيني الشقيق على حقوقه كاملة، وفي مقدمه حقه في الحرية والدولة المستقلة ذات السيادة كما ذكرت. حل الدولتين هو الحل الذي أجمعت أكثرية العالم على أنه السبيل الوحيد لتحقيق هذا السلام. ثمة إجراءات إسرائيلية أحادية غير قانونية تقوض فرص تحقيق هذا الحل، وبالتالي تنسف فرص تحقيق السلام العادل والشامل الذي نريده جميعا، والذي اخترناه عربا ومسلمين خيارا استراتيجيا لنا. مستمرون في العمل من أجل وقف هذه الإجراءات الأحادية، وبالتالي إدامة فرص تحقيق السلام على أساس حل الدولتين. جلالة الملك يقود جهود لا تنقطع مستمرة متواصلة من أجل العمل على تحقيق هذا السلام الذي يلبي حقوق أشقائنا في دولة فلسطين. التحديات كبيرة، التحديات صعبة، لكن لا نملك إلا أن نستمر في بذل كل جهد ممكن والقيام بكل دور متاح، وهذا ما نقوم به في المملكة، وهذه أولوية أردنية وهذه ضرورة من أجل تحقيق السلام العادل والشامل والدائم. سؤال أخير فقط أرجوكم، هنالك اجتماع لدعم القضية الفلسطينية أيضا، لا نستطيع أن نغيب. تفضل.
السيد فيليب لازاريني كان عايش في لبنان، يعرف تماما التحديات التي يمر بها
بسرعة بس لطفا.
Sorry, we don't hear you at the translation. You need a microphone.
No, it's working now. I said سيد فيليب لازاريني يعرف تماما التحديات التي تمر على لبنان. لبنان حاضن لعدد كبير من اللاجئين الفلسطينيين. قدمتم حضرتكم مع السفيرة الأمريكية دولة الشيء على اقتراح كهرباء. أين أصبح هذا الاقتراح؟ أنجأ عنا ساعة أو ساعتين كهرباء بالبلد. تقدمتم بالمساعدة ولكن لم نرى أي شيء حتى هذه الساعة.
كنت قد تحدثت حول هذا الموضوع سابقا. الأردن أنجز اتفاقا لتزويد لبنان الشقيق بالكهرباء مرورا بسوريا. أنجزنا الاتفاق الفني وتوصلنا إلى اتفاق ثلاثي بين الأردن وسوريا ولبنان. ننتظر أن رسالة الضمانات من الولايات المتحدة الأمريكية حتى لا يكون هذا الاتفاق عرضة لعقوبات سيزر، وهذه الموافقة تنتظر إنجاز تفاهمات بين لبنان والبنك الدولي. المشروع جاهز. نحن في الأردن كل ما هو مطلوب لتزويد لبنان بالكهرباء تم الاستعداد له. نحن نرى في دعم لبنان الشقيق ضرورة، وهذا جزء من الدعم الذي نريد أن نقدمه للبنان، ونحن مستمرون في ذلك. إذا سمحت لي، وأعتذر من فيليب أن ربما هو يجيب عن بقية الأسئلة لأن هنالك اجتماع آخر يجب أن أحضره. شكرا لكم وشكرا فيليب. I'm sorry I have to leave you with that, but I've got to rush to the
I won't answer the political question of Safadi. Thank you. Any other question for UNRWA? If not, please.
Yes, thank you. Thank you for the briefing on behalf of the Union. Oh, sorry, I don't know what I'm listening to anymore.
Yeah, because otherwise our colleagues might not understand.
Right. Thank you very much for the briefing on behalf of the UN Correspondents Association. My question is, His Majesty the King did make a statement saying that the two-state solution was no longer viable and they have to think of something else. Is that affecting UNRWA at all? And secondly, on UNRWA specifically, as my colleague started, how do you combat Israeli statements on the distortion of your textbooks? Is that costing you money among Western countries or anybody else? And how do you combat it? Because it would seem to me Israel likes UNRWA there, otherwise they would have to support it.
Is it, you hear me? Yeah. On the first question, you know, we are 73 years on as a UN agency, which was supposed to be, at the time it was created, was supposed to be a temporary agency. So at the time the agency was created, there were hope that a lasting and fair political solution would not take as long. Now, my observation is that since about 10 years, since about the time where the Palestinian-Israeli conflict started to be deprioritized, when new geopolitical dynamics started to emerge, it was also the time where less attention were brought in the region. It was also a time the region was hit by multiple crises. People started to have higher expectation about UNRWA, but unfortunately, because of the overall indifference prevailing in the region, our resources have not increased in a commensurate way than the needs, and that's where the agency started to be affected. So the absence of a political horizon is impacting the mood in the camp and in the region. There is a lot of despair, there is a lot of distress. People feel that they are abandoned by the international community. And in fact, UNRWA has become a proxy of its environment, basically, a proxy of its context. And this is fueling even more after that, this feeling of being abandoned. And this is the reason why also any weakening of UNRWA is perceived as the further weakening of the rights of the Palestinian refugees. So my answer is the less prospect, the more it will impact UNRWA. And this is also one of the reasons why we had this discussion today. Because on one hand, UNRWA and the mandate enjoys a very strong political support, because every 3 years, at the time of the renewal of the mandate, you have, I would say, number of member states supporting the renewal. But this is not translated into matching resources. And the discussion today was, how can we trigger the political attention, the political will, to make sure that this political support be translated into matching resources. So the more this two-state solution is stalled, the more it will impact the attention and the support of the agency, and the more after that it will fuel this feeling by the communities that the international community is undermining or decreasing or weakening its support. And that's the reason why the meeting today, in fact, was so important. On the second question regarding the smear campaign are primarily coming from advocacy organization, detractor. You heard me saying also publicly that they might not necessarily have the well-being of the Palestinian refugees' children at the heart of their concern. We are dealing with it because basically, as I mentioned before, as a UN organization, we are very proud of what we are teaching in our school. We are the only one in the region having a proper human rights curriculum. We are the only one having promoted gender parity when it comes to public school at this scale across the entire region. We are teaching creative thinking through an extraordinary dynamic youth parliament that we have put in place in the region. We keep being assessed by third party, saying that in fact we keep being praised by organizations like the World Bank, UNHCR, the British Council, but also renowned institute like the Eckart Institute in Germany. So basically, whenever we have this kind of attack, we spend a lot of time with parliamentaries, with those supporting the organization, but being anxious that we might not respect some of the UNESCO standard. We reassure by basically explaining, in fact, how we are teaching in our school and what we are achieving. And I also keep saying that we have extraordinary human story in our school, great talent, great achiever, despite the fact that the environment where our teaching is delivered is a very challenging and difficult environment. This week I was invited to a gathering in the margin of the Education Summit, and I was telling the story of this young lady in Ain el-Helwa in Lebanon, 15 years old, very proud, very committed, enthusiastic, telling me I would like to go to Oxford later on, and all of a sudden he burst in tears, and I asked what's going on. She said, but my dream will never happen because I'm in a refugee camp with 4 sisters and brothers, only one device, no connectivity, and there is no way, if I don't have digital access, that I will be able one day to go to Oxford. So you have all these stories going on in the camp, and all of a sudden you have bright, impressive children who become the pride of their own community through their own success. Thank you.
No, it's numbers. The percentage between international staff and local staff and how it is.
Well, listen, do the calculation. Roughly 200 international staff for 30,000 employees. Just to say that we have the smallest ratio of any UN agency or international organization when we compare international staff with national staff.
Thank you.
Thank you.